there's a iconic video that we have on our platform with Dr. Umar, and he spoke on his opinion on black men, and we spoke. I believe we all said that, you know, should we be held accountable for her selection?
You have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection.
Yeah. After speaking to you, you had a few words, and you know, Umar's watching. I'm gonna let you know he's watching.
I appreciate Dr. Umar, but that was incorrect. That was just wrong. If we break down the numbers, I want things to be objective. When he said there's a poor selection of black men, I want to know where that comes from. 22 black million men in America, all right? But even if you stack it on top of each other, out of 22 million, you get to 5.4 million, 24%. How is that a poor selection? Dr. Umar, come talk to me about that poor selection.
Welcome back to another episode of Daily Wrap Up Crew. No book of, I go by the name of Eli. As always, we got Ace with us.
Yes, indeed. It's Daily Rap Up Crew. We here to talk about the legacy, sitting down with Dr. James, Black Supremacy, you heard?
Okay. Last but not least, we got you.
Damn, bro. I thought.
Oh, you have more?
Nah, I'm done.
Oh, all right.
What it do? It's your boy Jew, and knowledge is power. Let's give the doctor for making this book all the right flowers. You know what I'm saying?
Cameron is alive and well, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, yo. Anyway, man.
Who you though?
Huh?
Who you?
What you mean, right?
You the hype man?
Why everything gotta be a
Because you out here
though,
hype man and shit. You get what I'm saying?
I'm giving Cam his flowers. That's your favorite rapper, right? That's
Yo,
what I mean.
Yeah, nigga, you do like some shiny suit wearing nigga, but all right, yo, let's continue.
Definitely is some shiny suit.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, listen, anyway, man, this next guest is an author. He's an educator, has 4 college degrees and a doctorate, man. Like, yeah, and a doctorate. I was getting a doctorate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's a martial artist with a black belt, so don't mess with him because he will knock you out. You know, amongst other things. Yo, we got a special guest, man, Dr. William James, man. Like, how you doing, man? Like, can you let the folks real quick, you know, tell them about yourself real quick if they didn't know who you are?
I think y'all covered pretty much all there is to it, pretty much. Dr. William Dion James, author, 2 books, 3 if you count my dissertation. I was born in Queens, New York, grew up in Long Island, New York. 5 college degrees, criminal justice, political science, a dual master's in history and secondary education, and a doctorate in educational leadership. Just here to, you know, be an advocate for my people and wake up my people to the truth.
And these is real degrees, right? Not like the fake, like online, like, you know.
No, not my. I was about to throw a shot. I don't want to throw no shot at anybody. But if anybody wants to go look me up, I graduated from St. John's University in Queens, New York in 2018 with my doctorate in educational leadership. My dissertation was Black and White 11th and 12th grade students, perspective of social studies curriculum in New York State public schools. And you can look me up on JSTOR and EBSCO. Those are research databases, and you can see my dissertation.
Okay, that's what we like to hear, man. Listen, obviously we here to talk about the book. You know, can you explain to the audience what the inspiration behind Black Supremacy means, and do you feel like that's a ideology that's divisive, or do you think it's like something that we need to talk about more in schools?
Black supremacy is definitely something we need to talk about more in schools. If you read the book is basically a curriculum that outlines Black history from Africa into the Americas and what our people have endured and what our people have overcome. So the book can't be divisive because I don't think objective truth can ever be divisive. If anybody could show me any objective truths that are divisive, I'm willing to hear the person out. But Basically, Black supremacy is just saying that when it comes to resilience and innovativeness, Black people are supreme, and that is a fact that I outline in the book. Also, if Black people would carry themselves with the resilience and the culture and the history that allowed their ancestors to be successful and thrive in the face of oppression, they're Black supremacists. That's Black supremacy.
Do you think? Wait, go ahead. Move on. Do you think that because of white supremacy, that supremacy in whole has like a negative connotation on it?
That's a fact. So white supremacy, what white supremacy actually is negative. What Black supremacy actually is positive. So that's why this makes the perfect title, because the title is inflammatory, because when you see Black supremacy, you think of white supremacy and you think of it having the same meaning.
Right.
But that's not my premise. My premise is that Black people are supreme due to our resilience and our innovativeness. If you look at Black Americans, we have over 50,000 inventions according to the American Patent Office. And that's just the ones they counted.
Right.
They didn't count a lot of our inventions because they said that we were property. Yeah, they said that we were property. And they said that, property can't claim, a patent. Right. So a lot of white slave masters would claim the inventions of Black people. And we still get credited with 50,000.
So do you think like the idea of like racial superiority, do you think is harmful, like a harmful rhetoric? What happened to like, when I think of like this type of rhetoric, I try to use it in the context of other ethnic groups. So if Indian people went around and said, yo, Indian supremacy or like Latino supremacy, like will we look at it in any less of a way outside of it being negative? Or
no, because Black people are the mothers and fathers of society, and you can't name a people on the face of the planet that have endured what Black people have endured and have contributed the way Black people have contributed. We are the fathers and mothers of science, history, medicine, anything you can name, we created. And then if you look at more specifically in America, what Black people went through since the transatlantic slave trade, we've been the most oppressed. We've been on the bottom of white supremacy, and we've still endured, and we're still fighting. We're attacked the most. No one is attacked like the Black man and woman and child in America. We are still fighting, and we're still contributing. That's why it's not the same if another group were to do it. It wouldn't be objectively true.
Right.
How can you say that they are the most? If you said like Indians, like you said, if it were to be, Asians or white people or whomever, they can't say that they're the most resilient. They can't say that they're most innovative. We're the ones that created the doorknob, Osborne Dorsey, doorknobs and doorstops, the stoplight, Garrett Morgan, gas mask, Garrett Morgan, Henry Seeley, the iron. It just goes on and on. Franklin McKinley Jones. This is the reason why we can refrigerate our food and allow it to get to a store. I can keep naming Black inventors. Like, we can't even eat potato chips if it wasn't for a Black man, George Crumb. Like, these just keep going on. And this is during our oppression. George Washington Carver came up with all of these inventions from peanut butter. And he was a eunuch. They castrated that man.
Yeah.
So like all of our oppression, it wasn't enough to stop us. So you can't, I challenge anyone on the face of the earth, come see me. Charles Kirk, what's that other dude? Ben Shapiro, anybody, any race, we can come sit down and they can argue for their race while I argue for mine. And we'll see how that goes.
So basically it's more about just embracing our accomplishments and our resilience that we have overcome.
Right. So that's the whole premise of the book. Black people have been resilient. We've overcome so much and we've still contributed so much to society, yet we're still disrespected. I wanted to put it in this book because they try to hide it. History has been whitewashed. They don't talk about our accomplishments. And this comes from my doctoral research. I finished I defended my dissertation in March of 2018. When I finished my dissertation, I went on a vacation. I took 3 trips. Then I came back, I unwound, and then in August of 2018, I started to do research for this book. So this book was 5 years of research and writing, and I published it in 2023. It was something that I wanted to, produce to contribute to my people because I saw where we were lacking.
So do you think, let me ask you a question real quick. Do you think Black people are obsessed with white people? Because we hear this talking point a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying? This, even the concept of black supremacy is this word on play of white supremacy. Is like almost a lot of, obviously our women will say that black men try to be in positions of roles of white men and stuff like that. So do you think, you know, when people talk about Kanye, they keep saying that he wants to be a white man, like, you know what I'm saying? So do you think there's some type of obsession there with white people that black people have?
Do I think the majority of black people are obsessed with white people? No. I think there's, you know, there's a certain group, you know, of black people who aren't yet, you know, how can I say it? They're not awake. Mm-hmm. You know, the term woke now is twisted around, so I gotta be careful. But there's some people, you know, within the black community, they're infatuated with, you know, white people and other cultures. But there are some people who are really, you know, focused on the black community, and they're really tied into black culture and what we're doing. You know, I think that was the problem with integration, trying to assimilate too much to white people and white culture and the things that they were doing, and we let our culture go. We let the things that we actually stood for, our culture, our values, and things like that go by the wayside, because we were trying to assimilate to what white people were doing. So there is a group of those people, but I wouldn't say it's the majority of black people that are like that.
I know in your book you talked about the destruction of the nuclear family, right? Do you think like the welfare like system help in the destruction of the nuclear family, or do you feel like that was kind of a necessity during that time?
No, it wasn't a necessity during that time, and it definitely destroyed the black nuclear family. Lyndon Baines Johnson came in with the you know, the man in the house rule, and it kicked black men out the house. It rewarded black women for not having a man in the house to get welfare. If you look at single black parent households in the 1950s, it was at like 25%. If you look at it now, it's around 70%. So it's all surrounding, you know, systemic racism. Lyndon Baines Johnson was, you know, he was a known white supremacist, a racist. He said the N-word. He's on recording saying it. And you just got to look at where these things start. So it definitely didn't benefit the nuclear black family. It helped destroy it. And
still is today.
Yeah, that's just one of the tools that they used.
Who right? So you said they. Who do you think is to blame for it?
It's white supremacy to blame for it, because Lyndon Baines Johnson put it in. He's the one who put in the rule of the man in the house rule, and you couldn't have a black man in the house in order to get the welfare benefits in the 1960s. Once he put that into place, right. He could have easily said, you have to have a black man in the house to get the welfare, but they wanted us out. Mm-hmm. So you see, it just the terminologies. If he said you have to have a black man in the house in order to get these benefits, that would have benefited the black family. Mm-hmm. They know that the black man is the head of the black household, so they know that's where the benefits are when the black men are in the household and leading the household. So he said we got to come up with ways to get them out of the household. That was one of the ways to get us out.
Why do you think families then use this to their benefits? Like I know there's other race and groups of families that the wife does get the welfare while the husband then own businesses where they're not, maybe they're not married or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe they have a different name in America, if you get what I'm saying, because I don't want to name the group, but
I know the group.
Yeah, so they definitely do it. They have large families. The woman has 5-6 kids, lives off the benefits of the government, while the husband is established, you know, financially, and they use, you know, the system to help them, and still followed it. Why do you think it's the opposite for us?
You're talking about when people plan it. You're talking about communities that are together. Mm-hmm. Like they do that in the Jewish communities and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
But that's a community that's tight-knit, they're together. They're a monolith in Jewish communities, and that's the problem with the black community. We say we're not a monolith, but there's certain things that we need to be a monolith about. There's certain things that we just need to all be uniformed on. Mm-hmm. They're together. Right. They have their private schools. They go to church on Saturday. They live in the same community. They'll buy a property. They'll see a house for sale across the street. They'll buy that property to move one of their cousins or family members into that property. These people are organized how we need to be. Mm-hmm. You're talking about people who plan it. We've been destructive. We've been constantly attacked. So now they're destroying the black community anyway. They're locking black men up. There was a setup, the drugs and guns and violence and all the stuff that they poured into our community. So now we're already in destruction. They're already attacking us. So now the black women, they come here, they give them this option like, look, as long as he's not in the house, you can be fine. And then you had the modern feminist movement that's set up by all of these lesbians and white supremacists. So they're spreading the message, you don't need a man. So if you give them all of the tools to really not need us, now, you've already spread the message and attacked them mentally. Now you're giving them the assets to not need us. Mm-hmm. It's like we're not unified no more. So that's why they're unified. We're not.
I think, obviously when we had these conversations, pre-welfare state, we had much more obviously nuclear families. We were at one point we were married at the same rate, if not even higher, than even the white families had. And obviously after the welfare state, we start to have, we we stopped making marriage a priority. We started being more reliant on government assistance, and then you see that the crumbling of the nuclear family, obviously the war on drugs and stuff like that just only adds on top of that. So I think for sure it's hard. You can't dismiss that. I know people try to say, oh, well, they need it because of the economy and the men wasn't working and X, Y, and Z, or the men magically just woke up one day and decided, you know what, I don't want to be a father no more. I'm going to just run away. Like, that's it's a false, it's a myth. Like, you know what I mean? So they keep trying to paint it that black men just woke up one day and decided, you know what, we just going to stop being the head of the household or the leaders of the household and stuff like that. So, so I think we need to study it more. I think in the classrooms it needs to be taught, I do want to get to this next topic about reparations.
Quickly, though. Yeah. Because that's a big thing that we just was talking about.
Right.
Like with the modern feminist movement being set up. There's a woman named Margaret Sloaner. She started what they call the National Black Female Organization. It's NBFO in 1973. If you look at Margaret Sloaner, she was a black lesbian. So she didn't like men. So all of these movements were set up by lesbians or people or white supremacists and things of that nature. If you look up if you look up Barbara Gettings or Harry Hay, they are looked at as the face of the LGBTQIA movement in America that came about in the late 1960s. This came about after Stonewall. They literally admitted to latching on to the civil rights movement and learning how to fight for rights from the civil rights movement. And this came after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. So once they had all of our leaders out of the way, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., etc., then that Martin Luther King died in 1968. Stonewall was in June 28th of 1969. And they had to attach a black person to Stonewall, Marsha P. Johnson, who wasn't even, they call him a transgender, but he was just a gay black man. And they had to attach him, he was a gay black man who dressed in drag. And they had to attach him to the Stonewall movement to make it, get more attention because he was a black man. Yeah. So they used him. He said in an interview himself, he wasn't even at Stonewall. He said that out his own mouth. So, and then they lie about Stonewall, and they lie about the beginning of that movement because they say Stonewall was this gay nightclub where they harassed and stuff like that. What they don't tell you about is how all of those nightclubs were owned by the Italian mafia. They don't tell you about, the Stonewall was owned by the Italian mafia, the Gambino crime family. There was another gay nightclub called Cookies. It was Cookies or Kookies, Kooks. That was owned by the Italian mafia. They had another nightclub called the 10th of Always. That was owned by the Italian mafia. This is why they were, being raided and stuff like that. They were owned by the mafia. It was prostitution. It was watered down alcohol. All of that stuff was a whole bunch of illegal activity. It wasn't because of them being gay nightclubs and stuff like that. They don't tell you these things. So all of this stuff is now used today to manipulate the black community and our children and the youth and stuff like that. And it's a distraction. They literally destroyed our movement to bring in the LGBTQIA, and black people are now trying to be intersectionalist and intersectionality, which makes no sense. From the standpoint of a martial artist, if I had to fight two people, I would want to fight them in a row. I wouldn't want to fight them simultaneously. So how does it make sense to say, oh, I'm black and I'm gay, I want to fight for black and gay at the same time? You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. You fight for one has to be a priority.
They said something similar about that with allegedly the Black Lives Matter movement as well. Like the same thing you're saying.
Was founded by the lesbians.
Yeah,
there was you go on the website, it was a whole modern feminist website. Like it was nothing to do with men.
It was like that was true. Erasing the men from the homes. Yeah, it could all be lies. I'm not really too sure.
No, that was true.
Website.
I went on the website.
Website.
It's true
for sure.
Yeah.
I know we gonna dive into that a little bit later, but real quick, I know this is like a topic, especially with the election that just happened. But this conversation about reparations, right? How do we determine who's eligible for reparations, and how should it be distributed?
We can tell who's eligible for reparations based off of the United States Census. Yeah. It goes back there. Like people know, your roots, and like my great grandmother, her name was Franny Mae McKithen Strong, and she was born in 1873 and died in 1984. She was 111 years old. So she was from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. You know your roots. I know my roots. She was able to pass on a lot of history. So we could use the census. And are you saying how we should delegate the funds after that?
Yeah, how should it be like distributed? Like some people say cash money, some people say, tax exemption, some people say land.
Oh, we could do a whole bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Starting with the money, because the money is the big driving force. But we can do tax exemptions. We can do grants and loans and stuff like that. Like how they allow in Michigan, they allow Native Americans to go to college for free. We could chew it all up. We should do all of that. Give us land to farm, grow our own crops. Give us casinos like they did to Native Americans. Give us all of that. But I need my money.
Yeah, I think I know I get a lot of pushback and people hate when I have this conversation online. But I am very skeptical about. It's not even like I don't think they should get it. It's just I know how irresponsible our people can be with money. So I'm not saying they shouldn't get money, but I think that. To me, I think there should be more of a generational impact or a policy that should be in play. That way we can sustain this generational wealth instead of just giving the money out. Because we see the spending habits of Black Americans today. We spend trillions of dollars, and it's usually on non-Black goods, luxury goods, fast food, and stuff like that. So again, I'm not saying we shouldn't get it. I think there needs to be more of a think tank. That way we can be more financially responsible, and that way it can last as generations. That way we don't be in the same position 5 years from now with no money because we spent it all on jewelry and Jordans and shit like that. And now what? There's no lasting effects for our community. There's no programs being put in place. There's no property being brought. And that's just my belief. Like, people don't like that. People just want their money and be able to do what the fuck they want with their money.
You bring up a good point, but that's why I have a financial literacy chapter in the book. Because we need to learn financial literacy. Right. And that's also why I teach financial literacy to my students. Mm-hmm. But the financial literacy chapter in the book, it breaks down how to handle funds and things to do, first-time home buyers and capital gains taxes and all of these different things that I break down in the book. But I'm not worried about the negative people, the people who are going to do the wrong thing with their money. Yeah. What they don't want is people like me to get money in our hands, because then they know that people like me are going to be game changers for the Black community, because I want a Black Wall Street. I want us to have Black private schools, a hospital, grocery stores, everything Black owned, Black banks. I want us to have that. And if
that exists at one point, but they burnt all that shit down.
I would bring it back. And right now, if we get that now, like if all of the people within the Black community, all of these Black multimillionaires and stuff like that, if they really were truly knowledgeable and truly, how can I say it, without saying woke?
Awoken.
If they were truly, knowledgeable, intelligent, or informed, I think that's a better word.
Informed, yeah.
They would utilize their money to get these things going. We would have more Black private schools and banks and
Instead of parties.
systems. Yeah.
But that's when they went. That's why they don't have to give us the money, because we busy arguing about how much money, who should get the money. We could sit here and argue about that, and they could avoid even bringing. Every time this conversation is brought up, we have no particular person like standing or controlling or having this conversation for us. But we're having the argument about how much and who should, rather than getting to that point.
Well, yeah. Why do you think it was easier for like other groups of people to get their reparations?
Because we could go down the list. We got Japanese Americans, Holocaust survivors. America ain't have nothing to do with the Holocaust. They still got reparations. You know what I mean? So it's other people that have gotten reparations. It's not questioned, but somehow when it's our turn to get that shit, it's like, oh well, that happened 250 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? So
why they keep bringing this up?
Like I said before, we've always been at the bottom of white supremacy. That's what I just said. We've always been attacked. Yeah. They gave Abraham Lincoln, they like to give Abraham Lincoln credit for whatever reason. He was a racist too. Yeah. They like to give him credit. He gave white slave masters reparations. They gave him money.
Oh, yeah, I read that in your book.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had to let go of your property with the Emancipation Proclamation. Let me give you this money for letting go of your property.
By property, you mean slaves?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So they give him credit. Oh, he freed the slaves. No, he didn't. He said out of his own mouth in his speech, if he could keep black people in chains, he would. He realized that he had to release us as a political move during the war. So like they gave white people slaves. Like you said, we still fund Israel annually. And they try to make it like, oh, it's a part of, foreign policy and, they're our ally. And this, they know predominantly in Israel is Jewish people. And by funding them, you're funding Jewish people. They're allowed to set up all types of grants and scholarships for Jewish Americans to go over to Israel and learn for free and all types of things. So
we can't even get education.
Yeah, we've always just been attacked, and we've always been at the bottom. They don't want to give us a foot up. The Balfour Act gave Israel a country, which is hence why we see what's going on over there now, because they split Palestine in half to give them Israel. Not even in half. They gave them the majority of Palestine damn near. And that's why we see what's going on now, going on. And we ain't get nothing. And like you said, we had nothing to do with World War II and not World War II, but the Holocaust. Because we came in, Japan started that and they got us involved in World War II. But we had nothing to do with the Holocaust. But black people, we were enslaved here for, by their record, 250 years.
And more people died during slavery than in the Holocaust.
Far more. Far more.
Yeah.
And our taxes is paying for this shit. Like, we pay taxes for them to give money to other people.
I just try and think about it like that.
But with the election just happening, did you have an opinion on the two candidates that was running?
Yeah, both trash.
Okay.
Sounds about
trash.
Right.
Kamala Harris, trash. Trump, trash. Like, when we talk about these people, and that's why I always tell people I'm nonpartisan, because they start bringing up things like the lesser of two evils, and they're like, well, let's dissect it. Which side is the lesser of the two evils? It doesn't make sense to me, because what Harris and Walz wanted to do was just as bad, if not worse, than what Trump wants to do. Like, I think it's pretty harsh to the whole transgender movement and the stuff that they're doing with kids and trying to like what Walz did in Minnesota. He was trying to make it to where they could go get surgeries at like 16, 17 without parental consent, and that seems pretty evil to me. Like, I'm a teacher and I see what they're doing now in the education system in schools. If you go on the New York City DOE website, they have it set up to where in schools, and I don't know if y'all notice it, even some of the parents who have kids in New York City schools, they don't notice. If a kid comes to school, they tell teachers, whatever that kid wants to be called, we're supposed to call them it and not tell the parent.
What?
Wow.
So if you named your son like Michael Jr., and then he comes to school and he's like, yeah, call me Melissa. They want us to call him Melissa and then not tell the parent that we're calling him Melissa.
They say that in the school?
Yeah, they say that, and it's on the New York City DOE website. It's a rule from the DOE chancellor, the head of the Department of Education in New York City. This is a rule. And The reason they say don't tell the parent, they say we could be informing the abuser of what's going on. We could be telling on the child. And I'm like, so we're supposed to not trust the person who's raising this child? Like that makes no sense. So I just think about like how much worse that would get if Harrison Walsh were to win. Like I'm thinking about everything. Like I'm like, that's the main thing. Like, and her education policy was actually better than Trump, because Trump is in favor of school choice, which I hate, because school choice just wants to put a whole bunch of different schools within a certain district, and you put the choice into the hands of an ignorant parent who doesn't necessarily understand the nuances of the school system and how things operate. I think we need to focus on having strict school districts with, say, 4 or 5 schools within a district, and we should have zone schools and focus on making those schools better instead of having all of these different schools within a certain perimeter. And you got a certain amount of private schools, and then you got 15 schools within this perimeter, and you got 3 to 4 good schools, and then the rest are just trash. I'm not a fan of that either. Both of them, like, you got one racist, you got one person over here who's a feminist, doesn't know what she's doing. And I don't understand why so many people were blinded by Harris. Like, and then they blame...
She's a woman and she's apparently black. So
and then they try to blame black men for her losing when 78% of black men voted for her ass. So how do you blame us? That makes no sense. I think too many black women and too many black men voted for her, because firstly, how come they don't... If she's a black Asian, how come the Asians don't get nobody says nothing about the amount of Asians who voted for her? It was like 54% of Asian people who voted for her. Why? And
nobody talking about the Latino
nobody's
community.
talking.
Like
we came out and 92% of us voted for her. Wow, like 86% total voted for her. 92% black women, 78% the men. We voted for her, large numbers. Why they not talking about her Asian side? We're always at the bottom. This is what I'm talking about. We're always at the bottom of white supremacy. We're at the bottom of the agendas that they push. And the reason why people are blinded, and this is why I say people got to be more emotionally intelligent. They keep talking about she went to a HBCU and she's a part of a Divine Non-Greek organization, which I talk about in the book. And they forget about everything else that she's done, and they forget she's married to a white man and all this. And that's real powerful. People don't understand how powerful
it's crazy.
Her being married to a white man is.
Yeah, they forgot about that. And nobody pressed her, like,
nobody
pressed the white men, like, or her husband, or why her husband didn't get more white men to vote for her. Nobody said nothing about that. Like,
no, but here's a fact for y'all to think about this. 70% of the black people who owned slaves, right, were black women. And the people that they call black were mulattoes. So they call them mixed, women, mulatto women, who had either a white father or they had a white husband who was a slave master who left them in charge. So Kamala Harris wouldn't have been nothing but one of those black women that's married to the slave master who we would be putting in charge, in my book.
Yeah, the black women, they gonna definitely come for you for those comments.
Feel free to come. Feel free.
All right. I did want to talk about, I want to salute to you first. Being a black educator is very important in our community. I remember growing up, I had probably like 4 black teachers, and I would say with not having a outlet at my house where no one cared about school, I think, having those 4 black men in my life played a pivotal point for me to take school seriously. I don't know about how you guys had it, or if even if you had a black male teacher, but I want you to speak on the the experience of being a black male teacher and the decisions that you are you teaching them the things you speak of on your book, and how do you separate what knowledge that the school got you programmed to teach? Because I think a lot of shit is stupid. Personally, like we learn things that we don't even need in life. So how does that affect your balance of what you got to teach and what you want to teach?
Yeah, I find a way to, incorporate, Black Supremacy, the knowledge that I spread in the book, into the curriculum. It's not easy within the system, but I really don't care. I do a whole bunch of stuff that you know. I don't care. I'm rebellious because really, you know, it's no secret that I wrote this type of book. I got staff members who are angry. People are angry. They do certain things to try to irritate me on the daily, but I'm an effective teacher. The kids love me. The families love me.
So they know you got a book, like the staff.
Yeah, they know my book is Black Supremacy. Sometimes I bring it into school. You know, I read it in front of them.
Right on the desk, right in the break room. Like,
nah, I've had them. You'd be surprised. I've had them try to sabotage me, trying to tell like the higher ups at my job, like, yo, this is what he posts on his Instagram. They just say, all right, well, that's his Instagram. That's his private, you know, that's his private life. That's not, what are you doing going to look for it? So you can't go look for, you know, things that's not your business and then try to use it against me. But
are your students, are they primarily like white or black or mixed or like
black, all black?
Okay.
I mean, some of them are Hispanic, but that's black.
Majority.
Like I don't do the whole brown thing.
Yeah.
Are you black or white? What are you? Because what side of colonization are you on? And I think that's what we got to push people to do. Like all this, I'm brown. No, you're not. Like, because it's like, I'm Latina. Okay, Haitians are Latina. No one ever says that they're brown. They just say Haitians are black. So like, what are you implying? But what is brown? No, are you black or white? I've never seen brown as a racial category. I've never seen that on like a census or a job application or anything.
Yeah,
so
I
don't
didn't
even
either.
do the brown.
Black,
are you black or white? And that would tell me a lot about you, your answer.
Yeah, you not getting hired.
Yeah, I know which type of Dominican or Puerto Rican you are based on your answer. So, yeah, my school is all black.
What do you think the influence of having a black male role model or black teacher, you know, what effect does it have on the children?
One like me, I think it's, you know, very positive because, you know, I'm teaching them the truth. Like you said, they learn a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need to know. I'm teaching them all things that they need to know. I'm teaching them about financial literacy. I'm teaching them about black history. I'm teaching them how to flip houses. I flip houses. I'm teaching them about that stuff. They're just, with knowing about my book, they know about my book. They want to read my book. Like,
but do you understand like the power that you have? Like some of these children don't have fathers in their home. So you're probably like the closest thing to them or like that role model that they never experienced at home.
I'm glad you're saying that. My students are going to think I told you to say that because I call all of them my sons and my daughters. And my nickname is Father James, like in the school. Because like I look at them like my children and I really care about them. And I try to be, you know, the person that fill that void for them because a lot of them don't have a father at home. And I try to be that person that, you know, and these kids just look for someone to be strict on them. A lot of people just, you know, they want to be nice to them and be super sensitive. No, they need a father figure. They need someone that's going to keep them, you know, off the streets, out of gangs, off the corner, off these drugs. So I'm that strict person when they come in the building. I do it in a you know, strict but warm manner. Like I provide them love, but I'm strict. It's like, yo, I love you, but pull up your pants. It's like, I love you, but your skirt is too short. And I'm constantly telling them like the stuff that, you know, signal red flags. Like when my students come in, I'm like, yo, your nails is too long. That's ratchet. Or, you know, you got those butterfly eyelashes on. I'm like, yo, those is too long. Take those off. You know, it's crazy the stuff I'm saying. I'm like, yo, you got too many piercings. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like,
what age group is this?
High school.
Oh, high school. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
No, but it's crazy. This generation is doing everything like younger. You got kids coming in the 9th grade tatted up.
So let me ask you a question real quick before. Oh.
right at the question.
Right in the middle. Let me ask you, cut.
So when you start back.
What was that question going to be?
Now I was going to ask you.
I want to get to this next topic because in your book you spoke on like slave owners who didn't, you know, value the slaves, and use them as basically like as experimental for medical situations.
Yeah.
I want to even speak on to like even to today. Like I hear that most Black women still get C-sections not because of the need of it, but because they choose to, make more money by, giving Black women the C-section or doing just different surgeries on them to make more money as medical experiments. So what do you say about from back then to now? How has that affected Black families?
Well, the experimentation on Black, people, it goes deep. From slavery to, I talk about the Ivy League schools in the book, Harvard, UPenn, Dartmouth, all of these colleges experimented on Black people. They had slaves in there experimenting on them before and after death.
Tuskegee,
all of that type of stuff. And this has had a tremendous effect on the Black community because, Henrietta Lacks, them just taking advantage of us. They took her cells and they never even paid her family the proper money from taking her cells and using it to come up with all of these, forms of medicine to cure people. Her family's owed billions of trillions of dollars. But like you said, with the C-sections, with Black women and stuff like that, leaving it to fatal pregnancies and things of that nature. It's just another way that they attack us because I talk about that in a chapter in the book too, how they would question Black women in the 70s and 80s when they came into the hospital pregnant, and they would ask them questions that they wouldn't ask, white people, Asian people and stuff like that, try to get them to admit that they're doing drugs and stuff like that so that they could take their children from them or their babies from them, the day after they're born. So all of this has just been attacked to, push our kids into the system or, kill our babies or have our women suffering more postpartum and things of that nature.
They believe our pain tolerance is higher than theirs. I've heard that like plenty of times, but
they're part of the white supremacy push was that Black people weren't human. We couldn't even feel pain, so they would cut women open, perform C-sections without any medication and things of that nature. It's wild.
I think once you start to really dissect this and go into this rabbit hole, because it's not just
it'll make you angry though,
it's
bro.
not just conspiracy theories or y'all just whether you go from destroying the nuclear family to then putting abortion clinics in our communities, and then you see how much I talked about how between 1974 and 2020 I think like 20 million Black babies have died. Like that type of stuff is crazy. Like they hear, like, you know what I mean, and it just goes back to like the procedures, the abortions, the constant fighting of one another, like, you know what I mean, the branching out and dating interracially, like all of it, the LGBT agenda, like all of it seems to be targeted towards our community for some reason, like, you know what I mean. So
man, I heard that and I've been hearing like a whole bunch of like crazy, because I do be jumping into these rabbit holes that you be saying, like
for TikTok, like
I do, because they said that they was feeding back in the days they was feeding the alligators black little black babies and stuff like that used to just make me so angry. Like you build, I don't want to say hatred because you're not supposed to hate nobody, but
what? Why not?
I'm hearing. What do you mean?
Why are you not supposed to hate? Why not? Oh, I hate.
That's because
the Bible says it's a time for hate and it's a time for love.
I think traditionally hatred has always led to some type of oppression or killing, mass murdering, or like, you know what I mean?
But
like,
they doing that to us though.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
No, you can control your hate.
What do you mean?
So if I know someone, like I hate child molesters and rapists. Does that mean I'm gonna go kill every child molester and rapist? No, there's a way.
But if you've seen one and you knew he was a child molester, you might be more inclined to harm that person.
To harm them?
Yeah.
It would depend on who they did it to and how they, like, what facts do I know surrounding the matter?
So you need to know.
See, because some people get that label, and they didn't do nothing. Like they was having sex in the park or something.
I'll put it to you this way: as someone I had one of my former students who was accused of a rape that he didn't do.
That's what.
He was locked up for 2 weeks. The person who put forward the false accusation came back and said, I lied. So
it happens a lot.
It depends on, especially.
But in this situation, we talking about people that actually did the crime. Like, you know what I mean? You will be more inclined to want to do harm to them, right?
I would be more inclined to want to do harm to them
because you hate.
My emotional intelligence will control me.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, you know
because of what I would want to do is kill them. But then I'm going to do life in prison.
Of hatred. That's coming from a place of hatred.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it though. I'm intelligent. I'm talking about displaying emotional intelligence. I'm not doing life in prison because I want to harm this person or do something bad. What it's our job to do is push people like that out of our community, to get these people locked up. That's why I never understood where it's like, oh, don't nobody deserve to be in jail. Yeah, there are.
Oh, no.
Some people do.
For sure.
You know, the rapists, the child molesters, they certainly do. There's certain people that's destroying communities that they deserve to be locked up.
But I also think that's hypocritical for people to say, because some people got uncles, cousins, aunties, nieces, nephews that they know that they experienced those situations with and never said, oh, I'm going to call the police on them.
And I talk about that in the book. See, this has to be addressed. All of these topics tie into each other. I can connect any topic in that book. This connects because I talk about it. Sometimes, for one, in the Black community, it's happened from, you know, an adult, a relative or something like that. But there's also other kids you have to watch who you put your child around, because other kids could be responsible for it. Yeah. You have to watch that. If I have... if my child want to go to a sleepover, then she's like, "Oh, Dad, can I go to a sleepover?" I don't have kids. This is hypothetical.
Yeah.
And my daughter is 7 years old, and she's like, "Oh, it's gonna be all 7-year-olds." Your daughter could be around a 7-year-old who's fast, who's been experienced to certain things. She's been touched, and then if she's alone in a room with your daughter, she could do something. Or if you go over another house and they got she's a 7-year-old daughter, but they might have a 10-year-old, 11-year-old son. Things. It could be another child that does things sometimes. So people got to watch that too.
Even as I'm a father of 4, right? And
that's it.
Things that I know of.
That I know of. But anywho, I have the same issue because my daughter always wants to go to somebody's house, and I say, well, you can have your friends over here, but I'm expecting the parent to have pushback, like, hey, I want to meet you. They'll send their kid over. I have 3 sons, so you sending your daughter over with 4 men you don't know, me, including me. You get what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, I got to meet her mother. I got to meet her father, you know, and I'm stopping. I'm like, hey, you know, you got to meet me because you got to understand that it's men in this house. So I want to let you know that you're bringing your daughter with a room full of men you don't know. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's just a whole nother conversation, man. It frustrates me, and it's not even my kid.
And the Vanderbilt institution did a research study, and it found out that 83% of people in the LGBTQIA community had an adverse childhood experience, and 52% of them had one more than 3 times.
That's crazy.
So just think about how that impacts your child.
Are you of the mind that, you know, people that subscribe to that the LGBT plus QIA, all this, you know, letters, I'm trying to get all the letters in there. Do you subscribe to the fact that they have some type of mental illness? Yeah,
that's a mental illness. Depending on which part of the alphabet are we looking at. To none of it is normal to me, but it's still in the DSM-5, transgenderism, gender dysphoria. If you go to, and that's another thing, if you go to page 455 of the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual for Medicine, page 455 says that 63 to 100% of the time, transgender women who are, you know, males, are attracted to males. 63 to 100% of the time. That ain't nothing but a gay man in a dress. And that's one of the reasons. So that's why I always argue that trans women or trans men, trans people are the most homophobic people, because it's just a way to escape being called homosexual. If you could say, oh, I'm a woman, I like men, then now we can't call you homosexual, technically. But to those who know, like, all right, you're a man, you're a male, you're gay, you're a homosexual. And they try to separate the terms. It doesn't make sense. They try to say, oh, gender is different from, man and woman is different from male and female. But the definition of a woman is an adult human female. So the only difference.
I love when they ask them what is a woman, and they say a woman is somebody who identifies as a woman. It's like, how are you using the word in the
circular
definition?
Definition makes no sense. So then it means nothing then. If a man is anyone who identifies as a man, a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. So there is no patriarchy. Donald Trump, how do we know when Donald Trump is a man or when he's a woman? How do we know the founders of this country? How do we know that they were men?
No, gender only pops up when they want to talk about toxic masculinity. Then they understand gender.
Another term that doesn't exist. But that's the best argument that I have for feminists who support this whole notion around gender identity and things like that. There is no such thing as the patriarchy if you believe in the gender identity nonsense that's going on. If a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman and a man is anyone who identifies as a man, there's no patriarchy. Men aren't controlling you. So I have a say in abortion rights. You can't say, oh, well, you want men to be quiet, because how do you know who the man is? While we talking about abortion, I identify as a woman. Like, it makes no sense.
I love the hypocrisy.
It makes no sense
when it comes to especially women in the feminist movement, or just women in general. They like to use we don't need a man, right? But then we obviously see when the time comes to voting, or it's time to get certain laws passed, then now you need a man, like, you know what I mean? But your whole mantra has been, I don't need a man until it's convenient or is beneficial to you, like, you know what I mean?
Had Michelle Obama and Barack Obama out here trying to press black men.
I do want to get in this one more topic too before we get up out of here. There's a iconic video that we have on our platform with Dr. Umar, and he spoke on his opinion on black men, and we spoke. I believe we all said that should we be held accountable for her selection, and I think he said something similar to that. Oh, we have to be held accountable because she has a poor selection.
What I also tell black women, if you're going to go get you an African man from the continent, you're going to have to understand that the way in which you talk to black men in America will not be tolerated over there.
Why the fuck is it tolerated? It's not tolerated here. That's what we're trying to tell them.
Well, over here, I want to say this to us, though, because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for. Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down, or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be a man. You ain't got to work, or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back, I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black men, we got to be patient with our women because we created that personality.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection.
And I know after speaking to you,
because there is a poor selection.
Yeah, after speaking to you, you had a few words, and Umar's watching. I'm gonna let you know he's watching.
I appreciate Dr. Umar, but that was incorrect. That was just wrong. If we break down the numbers, I'm Dr. Will James. Dr. Will James Reports. The home of objective truth. I want things to be objective. When he said there's a poor selection of black men, I want to know where that comes from. There's 22 black million men in America. All right. So you got 660,000 black men incarcerated, right? You got 500,000 black men who are LGBTQ. It's 460,000, but I added 40,000 for the down low brothers. All right. So we put 500,000. You got 1.3 million with no job. Okay. Then you got 2.86 million who are addicted to drugs. So that's around 5.4 million black men out of 22 million. That would be 24%. That would still mean, and that's if you compound those on top of each other. Some of those intertwine. So like some of the LGBTQ brothers are on drug addiction. Right. Some of them are incarcerated. But even if you stack it on top of each other, out of 22 million, you get to 5.4 million. 24%. How is that a poor selection? Because I would want So objectively speaking, I want to know where he got his number from to say there's a poor selection. If even with stack piling on top of each other, 76%, the vast majority of black men out here got a job. They're attracted to women. They ain't on drugs.
They don't got children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what do you mean by poor selection? There's more Antoine Fishers out here than Tyrones. That's why they want to clone Tyrone. They're trying to destroy the black community.
And that's just to assume that all women are, straight or not part of the LGBT community.
I did the same number. I did the same thing for black women.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did it for black women, there's 24 million black women in America. When I did the same stats, I came up with 3.5 million. But keep in mind, we're the ones that's why I say black men are attacked the most. All right. We're incarcerated the most. That's why there's no need for modern feminism. They got more rights than men systemically. They got all of the shelters for women. Women get sentenced less. They get pulled over less. We still got to enroll at 18. We still got to enroll for the armed forces in order to vote. They don't have to. So systemically, from a systemic standpoint, what are women fighting for? They did that to get, black women to be modern feminists, fighting for something that had nothing to do with us. They had Susan B. Anthony, who started that in the 1800s, and she was racist, whatever. She didn't even want Sojourner Truth to be a part of the movement. And then it transformed into this. Rockefeller supported the women's liberation movement, and he was a racist. And the reason why he supported the women's liberation movement, for two reasons. He said if we could get women working, we could tax them. We were eliminating taxing half of the population. And he said we could get kids into school earlier to indoctrinate them.
Crazy.
And now it worked like a charm. Women ain't in school. Women are working. They ain't at home taking care of the kids. Kids in school getting indoctrinated earlier, manipulated, black children. It was ridiculous. One of the worst things to happen.
Listen, man, I know
Dr. Umar, come talk to me about that poor selection.
Yeah, he might have to come up with the numbers.
Y'all on the show.
He probably gonna come in with Sukiyana.
Anyway, man,
Shout out to Umar though.
We appreciate you for pulling up on the show. Again, let them know where they could cop the book.
The book is available on Amazon.com. The book is available on my website at drwilliamdeonjames.com. If you go to Barnes and Nobles, you can order it. But the best place, just order on Amazon. Black Supremacy, $29.99. It's the best bang for your buck you could get. $29.99, 500 pages of information.
Definitely a lot of information on this book.
Must have, bro.
Holla at me on Instagram, Dr. Will James, and YouTube, Dr. Will James Reports.
Again, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. I know we had a ton more questions, man, but join the membership because y'all gonna get some behind the scenes footage, some extra conversations because we was talking about a couple of things. Hit that like button, subscribe. If y'all haven't subscribed, put y'all comments, man. If y'all agree, disagree, y'all know I'll be reading the comments. I'll be for sure in the comments reading them. It's like, so make sure y'all write y'all comments so I can see them and listen to the podcast every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. podcast audio. So appreciate y'all.